In this video we do a bit of turning. We have a little arts and crafts session. And I have to confess, I've got a little bit of a dribble problem. Hello, welcome to Tweed's Garage. In this video we're continuing work on the MB250 Adler. Yes, German twin two-stroke 250. If you haven't seen the previous videos, there'll be a playlist link down the bottom so you can sort of get up to speed, catch up, because there will be questions later. So last video we were just cleaning out the rust in the tank and all the old fuel. It had gummed up all the outlets, all the fuel tap and the pipe work and everything. One side of the fitting had been glued up, so it was obviously sort of a bit of a leaking issue, so they just glued that up, which meant the right hand side of the tank didn't have a fuel tap on it, just sort of had a link pipe. It was blocked off, so that side of the tank was just sort of all the fuel at the bottom, and that was just going stale all the time. So got it all back to not as new condition, but nice and, you know, good enough to put fuel in. So I just sort of, on this video, we just concentrate underneath, just tidying up the underneath of the tank, making some fuel filter meshes to put over the fuel pipes. I'll make the fuel pipes as well and sort out the fuel tap. So we assemble all that, put it on the bike, sort out the back seat. We've done all the timing, done that last time, so this time we sort of take it out in the garden and see if we can put petrol in it and see if we can start it. Okay, so yeah, grab a brew and let's go and have a look. So before we get around to doing the timing, I'm going to put the carburetor back on so we've got less parts kicking around. So I cleaned off the old gasket, not sure what it was, looked like asbestos. I don't know what this is, red lead or something. Even the acetone wouldn't touch it, so I had to gradually get that off. So we've made the new gasket, got the inlet manifold ready to go on, and we'll put a bit of 3-bond on the surfaces as well to help seal it up. And the dog's got me paper towel, get off! Yeah, bit of a furry interruption. Oi, that's me box. Can you stop tearing up the box? Oi, give it, give it, give it. Right, don't need the box. Slight technical difficulties, but we're back again. So, where was I? Putting 3-bond on the gasket and the dog. Just a sort of belt and braces. Keep the carburetor nice and sealed up. Gasket on there. What have you got? Excuse the dust, the dog's having a mad 5 minutes around the garden. And that on. So that on there like so. And there we go, 11mm spanner, which I've managed to find. And the goop has pressed out, so we give that a wipe. And just wipe on the inside as well, so you don't get a sort of edge of sealant blocking the inlet. Well, not blocking it, but restricting the flow. Got a way to go, but I don't think it went all the way, because this clamp would foul these bolts. I think that's about where it was. We'll soon know when we put the air filter and the rubber joiner up where its sort of position should be. Anyway, before we get too carried away, let's put the slide back in. So gauge the slide with a little peg in the slot like that. Top on, goes that way round, little notch towards the front to locate it, like so, and then pop on the securing ring, trying to avoid cross-threading it. Okay, next thing, get the air filter on. It's going to be difficult getting 60, 70-year-old rubber back in. Turn the camera off, it sort of starts popping straight on. Amazingly, it's still, once you exercise it a bit, it's still quite flexible. And you can tell it's natural rubber. Nearly there. Just the Germans make things awkward. Right. Not as awkward as the French though. Right, there we go. Ease on. Ease on. Right, well that's moving the whole motorcycle now rather than just the car wiggling around, so that's a bonus. Okay, let me go and find the cover. Found the cover. And hopefully we're fully confident nothing is leaking or needs adjusting. Probably, but we'll pop it on for now, just so we don't lose anything. I think that should be have a C-clip behind it to keep it in the housing. We'll have to do that next time we pop it off, which we'll probably have to do to adjust the idle speed or idle mixture. But for now, pop it back together. Less chance of things getting damaged. But what a German idea. Hide the carburetor so you can't adjust it without taking the carburetor apart to adjust it. There we go. And that's the air filter back on as well. Okay, now we've got that done, we can start looking at the checking the timing. So before putting the fuel tank back on the bike, there's a few jobs to do. Need to sort out some sort of little bit of a pre-filter for the fuel tank. It's got some brass mesh here. It's about the right, it's probably a little bit coarser than required, and unfortunately it's quite thin stuff. Difficult to find a thicker gauge fine brass mesh, but anyway, this will do. We'll just make some thing that sort of wraps around and pokes in the hole, just to sort of pre-filter any lumpy bits. There's a filter on the tap here, down the bottom as well, so you know that's taken care of. What I've done on the fuel tap here is because the one tube was broken and missing, one tube was split all the way down and corroded, was I dug those out, dug the remains of them out, and got some brass bar, drilled it out, turned it down to size, put a shoulder on it so it fit in the holes that were in the casting at the top here, and they were a tight fit. Pushed them in with some of the porosity seal that I've used on the Scott gearbox. Thought we'd give that a go, and it seems to have gone off really well actually. So that secured those in there. Not sure if it'll get attacked by the petrol, but belt and braces. I then run a bead of solder between the two tubes as well, you know, pinch them together, soldered them so there's tension on the bottom end of here, on the bottom end of these tubes, holding them in the holes, and it seems pretty solid. So what I need to do is sort of wrap some brass mesh around these and up and over the top, some sort of filter sock which will go in the holes here. There's not a lot of clearance, so that fine mesh will do fine, and then that'll be ready to go on. Now there was a bit of rust on the tank on the bottom, particularly on the inside here. It was quite rough, and somebody has, I think, treated it before, painted this black paint on. I don't think this was done by the factory because it would have been on here as well. But what I was going to do was just sort of tidy it up a bit and treat the rust and paint it black, you know, just a bit of chassis black underneath, because you can't see it unless you roll around on the floor, just to protect it. But when I was cleaning off the bottom of the tank, tidying it up a little bit, I noticed these original stamping marks on the bottom of the tank, and well, I didn't want to hide them really, didn't want to get rid of them, you know, they're there as sort of part of history of the bike. So what I've done is given the whole bottom of the tank, cleaned off the rust as best I could, and then given it a coat of the old Olatrol oil, which gives it this sort of varnish coating, but it soaks into all the rust and stops it from going any further. It works really well actually. And then in the future, if anybody wants to paint this, that'll sort of rub down and clean up pretty easily. But it just protects it for prosperity. That's the word I'm looking for. These original factory blobs of paint on the bottom there, just numbered on the bottom. So sort the filters out and then get this tank back on. So this is the third attempt at making a mesh filter for the fuel tap, and what I've got is a copper wire, thick copper wire inside, just sweated onto that joint between the two pipes, and it comes up and it's got a loop at the top just to add support to the mesh, and nice and curved so it doesn't sort of pull through as you push this through the neck of the fuel tank union, and doesn't drag it all down and crushes it. So it's wrapped around a few times. I've got a thin copper wire down the bottom, just wound round a few times, knotted up, and a blob of solder just to hold it in place. Sweated solder along the outside edge of the mesh so it attaches to the fold of mesh underneath it, so it attaches it so it can't open up. And then at the top, just knotted around a piece of very thin copper wire, pulled it tight to squash the mesh together, and then just put a blob of solder on it just to solder it all together so it's all closed at the top. So then hopefully this should sort of slide in quite nicely and all be held in position without collapsing down or crushing as per previous examples. Let's see if this works. I think that's gone down. Okay. So the solution for the other side of the tank, I think it originally had a filter on it, and it looks like this bit in the middle was pressed in with the brass around it because there's like a ring of brass mesh. So it must have been two pieces of aluminium. Anyway, it goes down quite a long way. I don't think I can get it out. So what I've done is I've tapped it, turned up a bit of brass. This is down to 6mm thread and 4.4mm hole up the end, which was roughly what the hole was there, and then cross drilled a few holes just to make a little head sort of thing to screw into there, so it will poke up a little bit higher than this originally. This used to sort of empty the tank. This will give a little bit of reserve on the opposite side of the tank if really desperate. And then what I can do is I think wrap the gauze around this. I've got a recess in the middle to for the gauze to bridge the gap and not block the holes, and then a couple of little grooves top and bottom just for some copper wire when I sort of wind it round, just to bite into, just to keep the filter on. I'll screw that in there, Loctite it in there, and then hopefully that'll be a filter for the opposite side of the tank. So another job I needed to do, in the mistaken idea that I needed to take the saddle off to remove the tank, was undo the fixings on the rear mudguard where the seat bolts the mudguard. They were sort of like coach bolts, so blind on the outside and nuts rusted on in the inside, so I had to drill the domes off of the coach bolts and then just sort of pop them out so I could move the saddle. But now I have to put it back together. Coach bolts, yes, okay, it's not a bad idea, but it's getting the coach bolts that have the square on the back that will fit into the slot on the seat bracket. So what I've done instead was use some Allen bolts. A bit controversial, I know, but they're sort of under the saddle and you don't really see them, but I made some nice aluminium cups for them to go in. So here they are, all mounted. You can see these are the slots that the original coach bolts used to sort of bite into. So just turned up a piece of aluminium bar, stuck it in the lathe, drilled through 6mm clearance hole, turned them down to 15mm, and then it was just a case of going in with a 10mm milling cutter, I think 6mm deep, to pocket the cups, to take the Allen bolt flush below the surface, and then used the corner of a radius cutter just to put a bit of shape into them so they weren't sort of just square corners on them, so I've got nice round edges to them. Popped them all together with some stainless steel nuts on the back and washers, so hopefully they won't rust up next time. And yeah, I think they look okay, and you hardly notice them. Right, continue putting the tank back on. So we put our little securing nuts on, and then C-spanner just to adjust them, tighten them up a little bit more. We'll do them like that, let it settle, and then see if they need tightening up later. But they're never going to fall off because you've got the fuel fittings underneath. So what is crazy, these lightweight aluminium fittings here, bike weighs a ton. It's not as if it's going to make much difference, but you know, showing willing. Oh, there we go, that'll do now. I'll tighten it up fully when I've got the fuel pipe across to the other side. And then the front, there's some sort of dome head bolts that poke up through a hole and slide along a slot, and they've got a little tang on one side that catches the slot so that you can tighten them up from underneath. Great when they're new, but I should imagine if they're rusted out, I was lucky I managed to get them undone, but I should imagine the little tang would get mashed off if they were really tight and you were trying to get them undone. That's it, and I'll do the other side off camera because you can't see it. So whilst we're here kneeling down in the dry and getting our hopes up it's going to run, I'm going to attempt to lubricate the chain. So how do you do that on the Adler? It's all enclosed chain case, can't really get to it, so what you need to do is you drop down the toolbox like so. There we go. I don't know if there's any tools in here from last time I took it out. Oh, there we go. No tools in it at all. Right, you know. Curiosity satisfied. Right, will it go back together again? Yeah, there we go. Right, it's behind here. We've got a little inspection cover here. So undo that. I did look at the sprocket through there when I had the cover off, and the sprocket looked in good order, and the chain was nice and greasy, and we can see it through here. Here it is, and play seems very good as well, doesn't seem to be too slack. Now I don't know whether this will come off. Can you get to it the toolbox in place? Be interesting to see if it comes off. I doubt whether it's ever been off. Do it gently, I don't want any captive nuts to come undone on the other side. Well, that one comes undone. That one comes undone. Yeah, you probably can't get it out from here. That's the that'll be the issue. That comes undone, falls on the floor. Oh, no, it moves. Can we get it out of there without stripping the engine down? I don't think so, but we can move it up out the way and have a look. And all looks good. Yeah, somebody's been spraying grease through that hole. Definitely, all on the back. It all looks pretty good actually. Rear sprocket looks good. Actually, I think for now that is okay. Keep an eye on that, but it's got plenty of grease on it at the moment. When it starts to dry out a bit, I'll give it a little squirt of this. I've been using this on a few of the bikes. 2 reasons I like it. One, because it smells of bananas, and 2, because it smells of banana milkshake. The cheap stuff. But we don't need it for now. Right, well that isn't that nice. Anybody who's ever sort of fought with enclosed chain cases will know that some of them are a complete nightmare to get on and off. And that is a pleasant change. German engineering, you see, that's what it is. And all the screws go back in as well. Oh joy. Chain lubrication checked, along with chain tension, and sprockets all in good order. Next thing to check will be the gearbox oil, but we'll do that once I've moved the bike out, because it's the other side. You won't be able to see, and I can't see very well. So here's the other side of the tank with the fuel tap all back on. So what I'm going to do now is pop in the fuel that I've mixed up. So let's pop some fuel in, see if the fuel taps leak. No, it's leaking. Let's catch that. Put the lid back on this. Only got half a litre to drain out, so that's not too bad. Well, I think it's the cork gasket isn't sealing. That's a shame. I'll tell you what, sod it. Let's see if it starts. As we know, fuel's going through there. We'll drop a bit into the carburetor. See if she fires off. Yep, got battery, it's in neutral. Choke on, tickle the carburetor. Okay, let's see what happens. Oh, choke back on again. V31, Adler MB250. That's 7 Jenkins, all running. I know, it's getting a habit. So, there you go. There is Herman running and sounding ready to go, ready to charge. There's a few little bits we've got to sort out. Yeah, bloody, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Modern fibre washers, absolute pants. Yes, I've soaked them, done everything else that people have suggested. You know, not done them up tight and then soaked them and then done them up tight. Yeah, they leak. So what we're going to do is put the old well seal on, like we did on the SU carbs on the Riley, on all the banjo fittings on the fibre washers on there. None of them leak. So that worked a treat. The other thing we could do is Doughty washers. I might look into it. I don't know whether you can get a sort of set of some, but I think you need to order them in individual sizes, which is a bit of a pain. But I may look into that. So yeah, so running, leaking. What other problems I've got? Brake light wasn't working properly, sort of working, and it was just that I hadn't done up all the fittings tightly on the hinged mudguard at the back. I'd had it open, done it back up and spun the little screw handles back in, but I hadn't done a few of them up tight. And the trouble is it has 2 lives going to the light fitting, and then the neutral or the earth is supplied through the metalwork. So just sort of took them off, gave them a bit of a spray, put them all back together, done them tight. Brake light, back light all working. Need to check the front suspension, the front forks or leading links or front swing arms. What I think Adler calls them swing arms, but anyway, yeah, they need oil checking in the bottom on the lever arm bits at the bottom and the shock absorber bits at the top. Need to check those. And then the other thing I've got to try and sort out is it's not charging again. I did have this as a problem before, sort of went round a rabbit hole, round and round circles, but I haven't sort of dove in too deep, because that's what happened last time. I sort of caused an issue and ended up chasing my tail and sorting it out. I think hopefully it's just the commutator was in a bit gummed up. It was all a bit gummy inside the points. I don't know where that had come from, but I've cleaned all that up, cleaned the copper surfaces up, give the brushes a bit of a clean, put all them back together, reseated and cleaned all the brush fittings. So I'll give it another try, and then I'll get a meter on there. Need to cure the fuel leaks first, and then when I get it sit there idling and revving and that, I can put meters on and check whether it's generating enough voltage to take the lights out. Hopefully it's just dirty connections, and it'll all sort of the light will go out. Happy days. And yeah, and then we'll be able to take it out on a run. That'll be good, won't it? Yeah, so if you like the video, give us a little like and hit subscribe and tell your friends, spread the word, all that kind of thing. Try and get us out there. Yeah, it's a sort of minefield out there. But yeah, anyway, hope you like the video. See you next time. All right, cheerio. Yeah, not your mates, Jenkins. They're all Herberts.